The EU follow-up mission report revealed that there is a waxing mistrust and confidence in the National Electoral Commission, Political Parties Registration Commission, the Judiciary and the Syrian Police. A statement that sparked controversies along the corridors of governance, and government was determined and very deliberate in putting up defense and questioning the credibility of the report. The consortium of progressive political parties, opposition leaders in black, marched to the Attorney General's office to present a protest letter against what they described as injustices and bad governance, an attack on the country's democracy. COP said that the government is becoming too notorious for constitutional violations, killing the rule of law, and the executive having waxing influence on the judiciary and the parliament. Tonight, we will try to unbundle the statement of the EU election follow-up mission in Sierra Leone and the claims of the consortium of progressive political parties. My name is Samuel Wise-Bangwe, and this is AYV on Sunday. All right, good evening and a very warm welcome to AYV on Sunday on Channel 53 on TV and on Radio FM 101.7. Today we're talking about the statement of the EU election follow-up mission in Sierra Leone and the claims of the consortium of progressive political parties. This evening I have with me the acting chair of the consortium of progressive political parties, who doubles as the chairperson for the Unity Party and the party's 2018 presidential candidate, Femi Kludiasko. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, thank you for having me.
All right, I have with me Imran Sila, a member of the Strategic Communications Unit at the Ministry of Information and Communication. Imran, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
All right, we await the arrival of the Chief Executive Officer for Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, Abdul Fatoma, and the political science lecturer at the University of Sierra Leone, Lena Thompson, to join the conversation. But to you watching and listening, as always, you can be part of the conversation. Share with us your contributions, send them to the Africa Young Voices Media Empire Facebook page, and follow the show. Now, I'm going to start off with you, Femi. There were concerns put forward by the EU elections follow-up mission, and they came to look at how far we've gone in terms of implementing the recommendations they put forward when they observed the 2018 elections. They said there are waxing mistrust, significant, decrease in trust and confidence in four critical institutions that are championing democracy: the National Electoral Commission, the Political Parties Registration Commission, the Judiciary of Sierra Leone, and the Sierra Leone Police. And you, again, as a consortium, have marched in black, delivering letters of protest. So take us through those concerns as a consortium that you put forward to the Attorney General.
You know, this has been a consistent build-up from the 2018 elections. And I think in those very early days, at that time we hadn't come together as a consortium yet, which is sad because we all spoke in those early days about the way and how the manner in which those MPs were removed.
Right.
That we can say was the honeymoon period. And at that point, we should have known those were the signs that there were trouble up ahead. But I think on that score, political parties in opposition, I can honestly say we dropped the ball. Because we raised the alarm, we spoke on media, we put out 1 or 2 press releases, and that was the end of it. And in a way, we literally gave them a blank check that you can do something as huge, as monumentous as this, going against what the Constitution mandates you to do, and they got away with it. And from that point on, Samuel, it has been a downhill where the Constitution, honestly, this government sees that document almost like a nuisance document, where it is not a document where, I'm glad Imran is here today, not the other fellow who I was on the media with, was claiming that you can infer information from the Constitution. No, you do not suppose, you do not guess. The Constitution is very clear on what you do and how it should be done. So from that point on, what do we see? We see more issues being raised, more problems being raised, where if we were only to follow the Constitution, we would be on the right path. Shockingly, after that, we then saw a sequence of events where we began raising the alarm very early on from last year that, look, some people have this concept that opposition, whether it's good or bad, we oppose. No,
exactly.
We oppose only when we see things going wrong. So at that early stage, when we first came together, we decided, let's send a letter to the president. He is not the president of the SLPP. He's not the president of few. He's the president of the Republic. If we have these burning issues, let us engage him. There was a meeting earlier on where political parties were there, and he promised his was going to be an inclusive government. There would be called collaboration, etc., etc. So let's write him a letter. We wrote 2 letters. We were not even afforded the courtesy of a reply.
So what were the issues enshrined in those letters?
The letters were referring to the events of, the letter simply stated, we weren't specific about what we wanted to discuss with him.
Right.
The letters simply were general to say we have concerns and we would like to have an audience with you so these concerns can be discussed. What was at the forefront of our mind was a decentralization policy,
right,
where political parties were going to be removed from local council elections. That was the backdrop to it. No response, no reply, nothing, silence. Second letter, silence. On the third occasion, we decided that perhaps the messenger with the way book was not delivering the letters, so we decided, let's take the letter ourselves. A man's best servant is always himself. So we decided to take the letter. In the process, I almost had my ankle fractured. And we kept telling their officers that I think it is our constitutional right to deliver a letter. I don't think we need police clearance to be able to deliver a letter. And that was the assault that we were welcomed with on our way to going up State Avenue. So there has been this roadblock where the engagement has not been there. Can
I take you back to the 2 letters you delivered first with getting no response? The government pride itself as a listening one. And so they would have been concerned with the letters, the issues raised, and perhaps come back to you. So what did that tell you at the time?
Well, actually, we eventually got a response from the advisor. I think he's Dr. Gayama or Professor Gayama.
Right.
He actually called me. We spoke on the phone. And I told him, I said, we need to have an audience with the president. I said, and it doesn't have to be anything that's super formal. It can be an informal discussion where we throw ideas to him, we discuss why are we upset about certain things? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And he spoke, actually after he invited us, we actually met with him in State House. And we discussed this, and he promised that he would call me. I was going to be his point person. He was going to call me to get back to me on when the president's schedule would be free enough for us to engage. Right. And guess what? The president's diary is still full. A year later, there's no space to talk to the opposition still. So there we are. So it's not that we don't want the public to have the perception that we haven't tried. We haven't tried. We went through the proper channels, we have tried. And when you get to the point when somebody simply isn't listening, you're stuck. You then begin to look, okay, what options do we have? We need to get the president's attention. We need to get, things have to do, they have to do better. And there's no harm in engaging. Were you scared of engaging with the opposition?
All right, let me bring in Imran on some of the few things Femi has highlighted. Blatant disregard for constitutional provisions, violating the constitution and not taking the document, that sacred document seriously as a government. She cited the 10 members of parliament who were removed and 10 others were sent in favor of the government. What's your take?
Well, thank you again for the opportunity. I've heard Claudius Cole making these, well, what would I call it? These statements. So, she's not only speaking for herself, but then obviously on behalf of COP, I would imagine. And look, I find it troubling a little bit, and I must say I'm a bit bemused, simply because if you want to take a letter, right, and you have something in mind for His Excellency the President, there is a ministry for political affairs, isn't there one, right, based on the 9th floor at U building, right? You go through the procedures. If I want to hand in a letter, assuming I wasn't working for government, and I wanted to send in a letter to His Excellency the President, I know I represent a political party and have a view or views to express. I would obviously send the letter to the ministry, right, and look forward for a reply from the ministry, via the ministry, to come back to us. But no, they wanted...
So you're saying they used the wrong channel?
They wanted a show on that day, you know, that they were going to State House, to deliver a letter to His Excellency the President, you know, and all the attention, right, that they were looking for. They
so you think it was political goal scoring?
But look, that's a political party. All of them belong to various political parties. So don't take politics away from it. Obviously, they have their calculations when they meet as to how can we get political mileage out of every single issue that comes up. Right? Let us go back to what the facts are. And I saw the intro talking about the EU report.
Yeah.
It's a separate thing altogether, and I hope we have time, right, in a bit to come to, what those facts are. Right? But then to now tie it down to some of the issues they have been raising, not only COP, but even the All People's Congress as a political party have been raising over time. I find it troubling and worrying. Now, look, whatever happened in Parliament, right, came via the justice system in this country, right? There was an injunction, right, that needed to be served, right? And it so happened that on that day in Parliament, the Parliament was bounded by law, right? I hope you understand. It's not because it's a separate arm of government that means that whatever ruling comes from the judiciary, cannot be implemented or observed in the House of Parliament. And so that was what happened. But that's behind us now, right? There's clear precedents, there are clear provisions in the Constitution, which I'm sure was handed down, by the courts, and obviously Parliament had to follow due process. Now, I have seen the strenuous efforts, right, by, political parties and COP in particular, to sort of tie it down now to an EU report, right, struggling, right, to find the nexus and the linkages, right, to come up with a political angle to it all. Let us go to the EU report. And this is what I keep saying, and His Excellency the President has made that point several times, including over CNN. He said he felt disappointed. And
by
disappointment...
By the reports?
By the EU reports.
Right.
Those were his words on CNN.
Yes.
And what did he mean by saying he felt disappointed? Disappointed because you would think, it wasn't even a report to start with, it was a holding statement. The report obviously would come out at some point, right? So it's just their observations as to the interactions they had with civil society organizations and political parties. And what has happened since then? We've had some civil society organizations saying, yes, we were in a meeting, but some of those issues were never raised with us, quite clearly. Right? Andrew Lavallee has been on 98.1, right, and several other mediums to express those views, saying, yes, we did have a meeting with the European Union, but those issues were not raised. They probably dealt with those issues with some other civil society organization. It raises so many questions. And here's the point. This government is a listening government. We want to take on board the views of people, but then also those with whom we have bilateral and multilateral relationships with. We understand as a government that the European Union has been here for the longest time and will continue to live, right, beyond this presidency. Yeah, I mean, that's definite. But then the European Union also understands that over the course of their time in Sierra Leone, but in many other countries that they're involved in, they understand it is that it is not everything they say that has been accepted by nation states and those governments at that material point in time. They've had disagreements. So it is expected. They understand it's not new. They are not in uncharted territory. What we're saying as a government, yes, we respect the relationship we have. We desire this relationship to move forward. But then we're also saying, when you come out with a holding statement suggesting that there's a breakdown of trust and all the rest of it, i.e., can you please furnish us with the necessary science, data, and statistics? That is what we're talking about. That would help to inform us even more, right, as to how strong, right, those claims are and those assertions that you're making contained in your holding statement, and how serious and what government needs to do to take those views on board. But in the absence of the exact science, no reference, no data, no statistics, who did they really speak to, for God and heaven's sake? We don't even know. Not as we sit here this Sunday.
Let me ask, but just before I ask you the question, let me just quickly welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Chadi, Abdul Fatoma. Good evening and welcome to AYV on Sunday.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. As you say that, I know you want to come in, Femi, but as you say that, Imran, the issues raised by the EU, follow-up team are things that have always been raised by different political players, including elections observers. Take, for example, new National Elections Watch. They've always raised those issues. Concerns were raised when the 10 MPs were removed from Parliament, that it was unconstitutional, that the court acted beyond its powers. The judiciary acted beyond its powers in favor of the SLPP. Those were the concerns, because the Public Elections Act, clearly, according to many opinions and legal submissions, the Public Elections Act creates a provision where you nullify a by-election, you have to go again and hold another by-election. But that was clearly not the case.
Samuel, there is enough precedent to suggest otherwise, right? We need to go back in time, as recent as maybe 5, 6, 7 years back, right, and see what those precedents are in the judicial system, right, that informed the judges. Now, I don't represent the judiciary, not by any means, right, but that we know, it is public knowledge that there is enough precedents that did inform those judges, right, to come to the conclusions they came to at that material point in time. Right, but then, look, let us come back again to a few things I'd like to say. Now, have we seen any reference with regards to the EU report? Have you seen any science? So, for example, just a few weeks ago, about 2, 3 weeks ago, IGR released a report, and it was talking about education and the fact that parents were actually paying X amount, I don't know if you've read the report.
Yes.
But the report would tell you the exact survey, the science, the data, the statistics, districts covered, sampling survey size, and all the rest of it. It informs governments. That's the kind of partnership we're looking for. But to say something, right, in vacuum, right, without giving us the necessary information, I mean, those final bits that we need to be able to move things forward, it is very unhelpful. And that is what the president meant by being disappointed.
So you're saying the EU sat in their conference room, puts, things together and come out as if that's the reality on ground.
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a willful omission, but it was an unusual omission by the European Union. Because it would have helped if we had benefited, right, from those, reference points, so that we'd be able to look into them. That was why His Excellency the President, and that's the position of government, that would like to continue to engage so that we benefit from those information. Right. Second, it's a point I'd like to reemphasize again. We've had IGR and CARL and other civil society organizations saying quite clearly, we were not part of that meeting that came up with those conclusions. Don't get us involved. And they said so on public radio and TV, right? And it brings up so many other questions. Well, who did they really speak to in the end? Because there's IGR, there's CARL, who we know over time have been critical of this government in the past, so no one should suspect them of taking sides in this particular instance, because as recent as only last week, they were actually critical of government on certain issues, right? So, but then they have been very consistent to say, no, well, who did they really talk to? We would also like to know. Here's the point for me. Look, His Excellency the President is willing to engage. and he has done so in the past. He's willing to engage political parties. We also know that there's a framework to engage
so if the
civil society
president is
organizations.
willing to engage political parties,
absolutely.
these opposition political parties, members of the consortium of progressive political parties, are saying for the last year or so, they've made all attempts, made all efforts to speak with the president, to engage on national issues, and they've been given deaf ears. They've not been listened to.
Well, look, that's it is subjective, and that's an opinion that is coming from political parties. The fact of the matter is, His Excellency the President has engaged with leaders of political parties in the past before. He's more than willing to do so. I mean, I know he has a very busy schedule. I know people who, I mean, have to be on a waiting list to be able to see the president, because look, that is what you vote for a president for. It's not that you wake up on a Tuesday morning and say, oh, hey, I get a letter for president, I'm going to deliver, and suddenly, you know, this president should be there waiting to let us get serious about right, the trappings of the presidency, and that you do not just have that access to the president. The president is expected to be very busy. He has a schedule. He's not even in charge of his own schedule. He has his scope, state chief of protocol, secretary to the president, presidential advisors, and all the rest of it. And you also have the ministry assigned for political parties, which is the ministry. Now, I have not heard Claudia Scholes saying at any point in all of what she has said so far to say, well, we went to the minister, right, responsible for political parties. No. They went straight to State House. So what were they trying to achieve? Well, I mean, who misinformed them? And why I find it a bit mischievous is this. They have amongst their midst Dr. Dennis Bright, who served in government right under the late Ahmed Tijan Kaba. He knows a lot more than most of them in that group. He should be advising them, but no, he has refused to, because he knows, like President Kaba, like the former president, like President Julius Maada Bio, you don't just wake up on a Tuesday morning and go to State House and say you want to see the president.
All right.
It's virtually impossible.
Let me
Not even ministers, when he was serving as minister, and this is a categorical statement I'm making.
Okay.
Even when he was serving as minister, he didn't get to see President Tijan Kaba at any given point.
Let me have Femi quickly comment before I bring in Abdul into the conversation.
More than quick. First of all, let us start by, the president has a very busy schedule, and he's at a dinner and dancing in the UK. And the president is on vacation, he's on a private jet, he's in Dubai with... Don't tell me that the president is too busy for the people of Sierra Leone. The opposition parties also represent the people of Sierra Leone. He has a busy schedule. I respect it. So do I.
Ordinarily.
So do all of us. We prioritize. And for Imran representing the strategic communication, I am sad. Some of this conversation I expect from the likes of Alpha Saidu that you don't read. If you go to the EU's website, there is clearly who they spoke to, there's detail there. So if you're going to come on AYV Live, where it's not, you're not talking to me, we're talking to the public, you have to come fully armed with facts.
But this is not just coming from Imran. This is coming from the government. And the Minister of Information has also submitted.
The minister is the Minister of Misinformation. Please, let's not get things muddled around. If you go to the EU's website, Samuel, whenever you invite me to your show, before I come and put my butt on your seat, I go to my computer, I talk to that man in my computer, Mr. Google, Mr. Yahoo. I go on. If it's something we're discussing about Sierra Leone's constitution, I pull it up in my computer. I print relative passages. I make notes. So I come to you, and I'm not just spewing words. So you will not tell me that Imran did not go on the EU website, where you can see exactly who they spoke to, it's not a secret. These people don't do business on the hand.
So let's get to talk about the 10 MPs that were removed, that the EU report spoke about.
Yes.
Imran is saying he's not, and clearly there's always separation of powers in governance.
Yes.
I don't know if you all have argued that is not in practice in Sierra Leone.
Yes.
But the judiciary made a decision that, I mean, these guys, according to what is before us, these guys should not be in parliament. These are the guys who should be in parliament. So let's send them to parliament. And parliament, the same day, parliament sworn them in as members of parliament. And they occupied their seats that very day. And so if we are to go with separation of power, you cannot blame the executive for what the judiciary is doing or what parliament is doing.
But before we even try to cast blame, Imran said a couple of things. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a nurse. But I also did my due diligence. And the precedence, when somebody claims precedence, it means this is something that has happened in the past that is saying legally it's okay. The precedence that they are struggling to hitch the removal of the parliamentarians to, it is a different circumstance. So you cannot use the precedence to say you killed somebody and you raped somebody and you claim precedence. No, you cannot. That's not the way precedence works. What they did then was illegal. Because at the end of the day, maybe if there's a lawyer who can advise us, does precedence have superiority over the Constitution? As I am ignorant of the law, that would be my logical question that I would ask. And if you come into power claiming to be the change, the new direction, do you hitch your donkey on a bad precedence if you want to claim precedence inappropriately? Or are you going to set a trend for us? Imran, it is not now you go and use websites that we are talking on the issue.
I'm not actually using a website.
Okay. But you will not hit your donkey
I'm
now on a bad
Just so you know.
precedence. No, you claim to be what? The new direction. With all due respect, that could have been good or bad, but they said new. So if things were bad then, do you still continue the bad ways now? So, and the EU report, Samuel, it's not a secret who they spoke to. I was vocal, number one. So it's not something that they did in cloak and dagger. And they would talk on issues, and what they did was provoke a conversation. In their consultations, they were very smart. They gathered the group, whether it was CSOs or whatever, and they stimulate the conversation, asking, these are the recommendations, have they been met? And they allow us to speak. So what are you saying? If they threw the question and CSOs or whichever, Carl or whoever was silent, they didn't ask relevant questions, that is on them. I was in one with political parties. Some of the political parties I was sitting there were mute. At Tonto Mumu.
All right. Let me quickly bring in Abdul Fatoma.
Samuel, I'd like to say something
in a
very
minute.
quickly, right? I get the sarcasm coming from Claudia's school, and I understand, right? Because that is what it feels like when there's nothing like substance in the things you want to say. You play sarcasm from time to time. It is not coming from me, right? I have stated what government's position is. I am saying there are very credible civil society organizations who did go, right, on TV and radio stations saying we were not part of those discussions. Yes, indeed, and look, they're quite intelligent also and very smart, maybe smarter than some of those people who are claiming to be politicians belonging to COP, yeah? Who did say, by all indications, that we did not have those conversations with the European Union, and that we would also like to benefit from those reference points.
But does that take the reality away?
The fact of the matter is this. Over time, the European Union has made several recommendations, going back to 2002. Yeah, this is the only government who's come through with some of those recommendations. Right? Criminal libel. Just last week, His Excellency the President made a lasting commitment on freedom of the press and all the rest of it, which he signed. There is a new cybersecurity. We're talking about gender bill and and all the rest of it. All of those were part of the recommendations, right? Going back to 2002, 2007, 2012, no government ever bothered.
We'll come to discuss the details when COP is saying you've killed good governance and democracy. We'll come to discuss some of those details you're referencing. Let me bring in Abdul Fatoma.
There's a difference between sarcasm.
You would have time to react. Let me bring in Abdul Fatoma. Abdul, you follow the conversation. We're looking at the health of Sierra Leone's democracy. The EU is saying there's significant decrease in the trust of 4 critical institutions promoting democracy: the National Electoral Commission, the Political Parties Registration Commission, the Judiciary of Sierra Leone, which I'm sure you're a close friend of, the CLN Police, and COP just presented a letter to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice outlining grave concerns of, justifying their claims of bad governance, constitutional violations, and an attack on democracy. Where do you come in with regards to these claims?
First of all, a peaceful and a productive society is based on effective state institution. Good governance in sense mean effective and efficient structure, which provide safe and productive life for citizens. Promotion of good governance go beyond government sectors and includes relevant sectors from the private and also the volunteer sector, where I belong, which is the civil society. And we have opposition party. What we have failed to accept as a nation is this, that the constitution we have, it doesn't serve good purpose for good governance and democracy in any civilized democratic institution. The 1991 constitution, largely most part of its chapters and sections, were meant for one-party dictatorship system, and it was embedded. We still have a constitution that gives the Attorney General powers to serve as a liaison within the office of the judiciary, that's the Chief Justice, and that of the executive power. His seat, in cabinet meeting, having a voting right to vote and determine what the justice system will looks like in this country, without having a Minister of Justice who would have been a particular liaison within the judiciary and Parliament and also the cabinet. The Attorney General, who is responsible to prosecute, for citizens or foreigners who commit crime against any citizens of this country. He happens to be a politician.
Government minister.
Government minister. So these are some of the calamities the 1991 Constitution brings into the so-called democracy we're talking about. But we, as a citizen, majority of us, have not put on any seriousness to actually urge government that we want a change of constitution, a constitution that speaks for us. We launched a campaign. We have print, banners at Moritown Junction and also, Upgunton Table for the East. And we have done that on a radio, television. We're still urging the government of Sri Lanka.
Can I just quickly ask you this question?
Yes,
when you submitted that the people of this country should actually urge and demand for a change in our constitution, especially when you talk about having the Attorney General and Minister of Justice being the bridge between the executive and the judiciary, and at the end of the day, he has voting right to make decisions and all of that. Didn't the people make that decision when they voted in the SLPP? Because the SLPP promised in their manifesto that that office was going to be separated. I mean, there will be the Attorney General and there will be a separate office for the Minister of Justice. So that was a change the people looked forward to when they voted in the SLPP.
Yeah, I mean, when elections comes, you will see each political party making good promises to canvass vote. And it is the responsibility of citizens who were convinced by those promises to vote for them or not vote for them. It is also their sacred right and responsibility to hold government accountable. It is also their responsibility to urge their government, to demand, to the government to do what is right. And in that sense, every country's citizens yearn for better laws. The development, the progress, the peace we're craving for, we can only have these things when we have a law that treats everyone equal, even though, you know, that's what the Bible says, that was what the law says, but it's different practice in all countries. But other countries are progressive today based on the laws they have governing their citizens, and also the laws they have for businesses to strive. Businesses feel protected. Citizens feel protected, you know, with those laws. You have your freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of movement, the right to reside any part of the country, you know, with your choice based on the laid down laws that provides, you know, to protect the actual thing for citizens. So that was just one. We have seen in this country the three arms of government are in uniform to behave the way they want to behave to citizens. Discontentment has not generated from today, you know, in 2021 or from 2018 to 2021. Discontentment started from the day we gained our independence. We moved to 1963 till we run down 1971 when we start tampering with the Constitution to 1978. And then 1978, we move gradually faster. Late President Momoa used 6 months to change the Constitution from 1978 Constitution to the 1991 Constitution, which is undemocratic for me. I'm on record in this country saying that government after government, that it's not good for us. It has taken both the Kroma government and also the Bio government to change this undemocratic constitution. The reason being why it gives enormous power to the political party that is governing this country. So enjoying those luxury, you know, it's not easily come by to disarm. So you see, progressively, the acts that we have, those acts that we have, the acts are more progressive than the 1991 Constitution. Those acts are saying that office of tenure, your office of tenure is secure, failing to realize that there is a clause in the Constitution give the president the power to hire and fire, create and establish office. So you talking about wage bill as an opposition person, just because you want to talk to your people to get sympathy, or as a civil society, you fail to realize that that power needs to be disarmed, you know, from whosoever is a president, because you gave him, it's not illegal. It's legal for him to create as much office as he thinks. It's legal for him to fire anyone. It's legal for him to hire anyone.
And that, let me ask you this question, Abdul.
There's no problem of hiring and firing.
That is,
but there should be processes and procedures.
That is critical and crucial to the growth or strengthening of our democracy. Now, like you put it,
that's the bedrock.
Like you put it, every president would definitely want to enjoy the political powers given by the Constitution. So we've had failed political commitments to reviewing the 1991 Constitution from the former president to now. We've seen where commitments have been made publicly, but we are yet to see that in reality. Recommendations have been made. Accepting those recommendations is also a crisis. And definitely, no politician whose interest is just to apparently have all the powers would want to do that. They would always want to enjoy that. So, like you cited, it is legal for them to hire and fire. You talk about the processes and procedures in doing that. We've had allegations of unconstitutional sacking. We go back since the day, not starting now. And all of these things, and we continue to cry about our democracy when our presidents use excessive executive powers. That I mean, those powers kill democracy.
How excessive? It's not excessive. legal because, you know, it's,
Right.
I mean, let's be honest with the people. It's legal. I mean, we want to work with a constitution, and the constitution that we have, we take it from a one-party system, that one man was everything. And with that system, you know, somebody allegedly who wanted to be a president of this country, but by them, he was an AG of this country. He thought it fit that he will have so much power that he will be at cabinet. So the Minister of Justice position was taken away. And also when the judiciary was independent before 1978, the judiciary was getting their own money and only having few funds. So they took those power from them and also said that all court fines and other things now won't go to the court treasury department. We now straight away goes to, you know, the consolidated fund. And so with that, they remain armless. You know, they work to the stooge of politicians, the direction. This is the example. Now, the judiciary want to set up a panel, you know, for a particular allegations with Ministry of Finance.
Right.
And Ministry of Finance, who is there as the head of minister, is a politician. It's no joke in this country. They don't send, you know, a technocrat there so easily. Only President Kaba did that. But Chroma, BO, they have never dreamed of doing that. Sending just technocrat without having a political you know, capital in those political parties. So the Minister of Finance think that, oh, well, we don't have money, and this, you know, judiciary wants to hire somebody within the Commonwealth system, which is legal for us, you know, to come, not a Sierra Leonean, but within the Commonwealth jurisdiction to come, and this is the fee. Oh, no, we don't have that money. You know, now what we're thinking about paying teachers, police, and the military. So what happens? Justice delay is justice dying, right? So automatically, we're losing the actual fair play into that process. But where in the case, the judiciary, you know, having their own court fines and all other fees pay at the judiciary account, and also subject to auditing through, you know, the established institution, which is the audit service. And judiciously, the judiciary using that money independently. In America, judges, you know, the moment they become judges, their tenure of office is lifetime, their facility and provisions is lifetime. Even you fire me, I'll be sitting at home still enjoying that. I talked to a district court judge, I mean, 2 weeks ago, while I was in the state. We were talking about, you know, the power of judges in the United States, how secure, you know, they are. So even president or politicians who appointed them or who recommends them cannot influence them, because you send me home, I'm still entitled to whatever without working for you. So who is going to lose? It's going to be the state. You know, so when we want to make this the effective and efficient, I was talking about, of state institutions. Now, Imran and Madam Cole, they were talking about the EU.
Yes.
EU didn't jump up and drop, you know, on the floor in this country. I was part of 2 consultative meetings with the EU. The second one, Carl was there, CGG was there, IGR was there, WANEP was there. You know, I'm key civil society players, the 2 civil society sessions that I met. I also learned reliably that EU also hired, unless my source misinformed me, EU already hired Sierra Leonean lawyers who also briefed them undercut matters.
Right.
So were they misled? Instead of attacking EU, can we look at those who EU met with and what was their contribution? EU also met with political parties, you know, and you know, COP happens to be those political parties, opposition party, and also ruling political parties. EU also met with senior government officials. They met with the NEC, they met with PPRC, they met with this. So based on the information, they might not be putting information that was said by Abdul Fattah. Maybe it was not comfortable for them. But maybe it's comfortable to put out a statement by Samuel, looking at his stature and status in this country. EU would trust Samuel, that Samuel, he's been truthful. Even Samuel has been deceitful to them.
Right.
So they put that truthful, pretending that information is truthful. They brought in 2 senior lawyers. Yeah? 2 senior lawyers who drafted questions and trained those stimulated questions. And so people who are discontent with these administrations have to pour out what they will pour out. And so what happens? EU will take the ones that they think they will urge government to do changes. We call those things policy, you know, advocacy tools. It inform and provoke government to change their shape of policy directions. So these are things that you look at it and call, like Imran was saying, I mean, those was focus group discussion. If you're looking for the methodology and the scientific evidence is and the methodology is focus group discussion.
And what this reminds me of the report published, I think, by Carl and IGR on Parliament, that the people of Sierra Leone said Parliament is one of the most corrupt institutions, and Parliament was bring the evidence, bring your
these are the lazy tools that, you know, people in governance, in opposition, or some in civil society, or the general public, seem to subject themselves to.
Right.
We have not been honest with ourselves in this country when it comes to real governance. We only pretend to be sincere when it comes to politics, you know, with insincerity attitude, in that sincerity, you know, approach. Our issue is the laws. And that law, the Public Order Act, that police are still using that act in high power interest against the national constitution that guarantee me and you freedom of association, right to assembly. And they said that because the act says you can go through the police to seek a permission to grant you the right to protest. So with security issues, they're not going to give you. So they have been using security threat, but this undermines the capacity of our national security.
All right, let me quickly ask Femi this question. You know, when Abdul is making a submission, what comes to mind, for example, we're talking, the EU it says, based on the findings, that the Sierra Leone police, for example, is one of the, one of the institutions that significantly trust has reduced by members of the public. And the Sierra Leone police, for example, has the police council, and the chair of the police council is the vice president of this republic. You have the minister of internal affairs in that council, and that council discusses operations and things of the police, including sometimes somebody was telling me even promotion is discussed at that
disciplinary hearing as well.
And now Abdul just brought to our attention that the Attorney General and Minister of Justice blurs the line of independence with the judiciary because he serves as a politician in the executive and still has its own role of mandate in the judiciary. So, and we talk about separation of power. And these, the things you're calling or crying for about bad governance and things like that, should we focus on actually letting the governments look at these things, or should we redirect our focus of thought to the Constitution?
And what Fatoma is talking about now is diagnosing the foundation problem.
Right.
what we are writing about are the symptoms. We are getting the effects of all of that.
Right.
And one thing I must say I 100% agree with him about is there has to be that conviction to actually take the Constitution. But who will willingly give up their powers?
No, it's sorry to interject. It's not about them. We borrow them a status of 5 years for them to govern us. We borrow them. They are in a borrowed status that at any given time, those status will be taken away back from them.
Come back for
and they will come back and join us to also borrow another set of people, you know, who will govern us, right? And so this is the seriousness I want in this country. I will lead any demonstration in this country that
would you get the police clearance to do so?
No, I don't need a police clearance.
But we don't need it.
The public order act, the police is saying we have to.
I would inform the general public that we want to demonstrate and urge the government of Sierra Leone to review the 1991 Constitution. Our stagnation for us to develop is because of the bad laws we have. The bad laws we have in governing this country's affairs. The moment we put that in place, we will be in better position. Ghana did that. We have seen a different change. South Africa did that. We have seen a different change. Rwanda did that. We have seen a different change. There are clear examples within the region, right? So if we can do that, the constitutions that are owned by the people, we will not be having a fly-by-night politicians clamoring to belong to a political party, right? We will start having credible people, credible individuals. What we are seeing here, we are not enjoying politics, we are not enjoying democracy. Because other countries, opposition political parties serve as a strong and better alternative. And they show alternative that, you know, the way this economy is going, we would have been in a better and a brighter position to resolve this issue. They won't keep the secret. They don't mind the government borrow that secret, but they will also embarrass the government that you lack ideas and now you're using our ideas. So we want voters to see that this is our ideas, right? But we don't have that in our own politics and in our own democracy. So who gets robbed is the ordinary people who goes to the pool.
As you said that, as Abdul just submitted that, I listened to one of your members, Dr. Albright, there when you delivered the letter. And he said in the letter you delivered, you gave, I think, about 3 experts' advice on how things should go. And you were talking about, you were referring to those things as symptoms. So take us through the specifics in the letter and what can be done.
Where do we start? Let's start with the judiciary. What we see in the judiciary is that unseen hand, where if that unseen hand is eliminated and the judiciary as an institution gains its independence. Fatoma has just educated me in that who pays the piper calls the tune. So there are some changes that need to be made, which would be perfect. Once they do not depend on the Minister of Finance for money, they can begin to be on the road to independence. And in our letter, we raised the issue of Kamaremba. We mentioned him specifically. We did not say we are condoning the crime. What we're saying is the process of adjudicating the whole thing. Now, we saw yesterday, Samuel, a letter came out on, they finally released his co-defendant. And
Your lady.
the lady, and the bail conditions covered both of them. And we hear Justice, the PRO for the judiciary, saying that he did not meet bail conditions. So right there, there's a contradiction already. And we are now claiming, we are now accusing them, and it is for them to debunk that Kamayemba is now being held, for want of a better word, as a political prisoner. Where if bail has been given, bail has been denied. For what aim? Is there an unseen hand adjudicating the case, not just the judiciary as an independent body? And I gave the example of a case that I was in the middle of, in Kailang, where the penetration was of an 8-year-old child. And that man who's guilty of that has been granted bail. So you cannot, if you're claiming precedence, there's so many cases of precedence that you can claim to say, well, if he, for even penetrating a younger child, can be given bail, and in this case, bail has been granted, and bail conditions, if you read the bail conditions,
approval not given.
Has not been given. So we have now flipped it from a man is innocent unto proven guilty to a man is now guilty unto proven innocence. So we're going down a very troubling road, and that's just one aspect.
Right.
And, you know, he's talking about protesting. And the other day, we were not even, you can call it a protest for want of a better word, but we were making a statement. We were trying to say we have engaged. And, you know, Imran is saying, yes, last Monday, he's saying that there's a proper channel. Now, the first engagement with the president, his conversation was, he's here to talk. You can approach me. I am prepared to engage. Mine is going to be a government of inclusion. So now you're now telling us that we're barriers. Okay, we went through the wrong channel, as per Imran. I agree.
We should have gone through the Ministry
We should have
of
gone through the
Political and
minister.
Public Affairs.
After our engagement with the president's advisor in State House, Imran can take it from that point, where we were assured that we would have the president's audience. He has a busy schedule. We expect that. We are all running on busy schedules. But we're still waiting. The schedule is not that busy for a dinner and dance. He was doing the two-step in London. So he can engage us. It's possible. So there are many areas. And we look at what has happened in Koinadugu, and the troubling one, what's happening to by-elections in the country? Don't you think that's cause for a conversation that we should have with them? We see what happened in constituency 110, where an entire election was thrown out because of the problems that happened in one polling center. But we see in Kono a different set of reality, where there was problem in one center, but the election was not thrown out. They went ahead and carried on and counted the rest of the votes.
With that, sorry to interject.
Oh, please do.
Recently, I've been involved in election monitoring, not observing, monitoring. I worked with the conflict prevention, the election conflict prevention, and so far, all political parties that has participated in the elections that we monitor are satisfied with us and pleased with us. So I've been so close, you know, to those elections. The elections, the two comparative analyses you're making are of different leadership. When the current electoral commissioner came in, his first test was 110, and also the headman elections across the peninsular villages. And it all went peacefully. That was what got Khadija's back, you know, to Parliament. He even, I'm saying this, she even thanked me and appreciate, you know, our group role, Interreligious Council, Eminent Women, and CHRDI. And we have so far worked with NEC for 18 by-elections. Out of those 18 by-elections, 12 run without a single doubt or something raised at NEC.
So break that doing into percentages
Doing 12,
against.
you know, 12, yeah. And these 18, we're talking about Kwenadugu, you know, the issue of the ballot paper was burned in an isolated town. I mean isolate, not deliberately like the political isolate they say, you know. And police was not there, and so it was at the mercy of the NEC officials and just the political party and the community people. So that happens. Then there was a tension within the township of Kwenadugu. I was part of the process to ensure that the APC leadership, the SLPP leadership, exercise calmness and peace prevail and elections get back to normal. Dr. Mara, Kefala Mara, Richard Conte, they were there together with me and the NEC chair. We talked to them, we talked to their supporters. They exercised calm, and we also went to the SLPP. After that, the township was normal. Mara as well from the APC sent me a text appreciating our group involvement into those things. And in Kono, I was not in Sierra Leone, I was out, but our group was there, they monitored the process. So what NEC did, they impounded the process first, for them not to announce the result, but as to investigate the process. And so they were able to get access to some of the untampered, you know, voting materials, and they redo the counting. Still, there was no chances, you know. And as per this, reliably informed that the very EU are clearly aware about this latest process. The British High Commission is aware, and most of the other people are aware about how the process happened. And even the contested political party, they duly informed them. I'm not talking about sign. Don't mislead me. Hold on, sir. I mean, what I'm briefed is what I can say.
Basically confirming. If that's what you're about to say.
I don't know now for sign, but what I know that they were informed about this latest process, and there was a level of satisfaction about it, right? And then the result later on were called. So the Kwenadugu and the Kono issues and that of the previous, you know, 110 issues when the minister was caught on camera and other party supporters destroying ballot boxes, you know, that was not then. So when we're making these issues, we need to get some...
I need to...
Yes, I'll give you time shortly to just respond to all of them.
To come back to what you're saying,
I'm okay
the EU report mentions NEC, it mentions the police. The institutions.
Not the individuals.
Not the individuals.
Right.
And what we saw in Constituency 110 was both of those institutions malfunction. Because even with the police, as we speak, perhaps Imran can educate us, who were arrested or brought in for questioning with regards to what happened in 110. Has the SLP changed? It's the institutions that we're complaining about.
Not the individuals.
And what he was saying in his opening, which I agree with, is fixing it from the foundation up. So whoever heads those institutions will go along with the systems that are laid in place. Right. We cannot constantly say, well, I wasn't the IG of police. Savola was the AIG during 110.
Let me bring in Imran.
A lot has been said by Fatoma and Femi Claudius.
Right.
Right. And I think Fatoma statements are sort of refreshing in a way because it is beginning. Otherwise, it was beginning to feel a bit silly, right? Talking about Kamarimba, right? And
who's silly?
But no, not you. I say it was beginning to feel until your statements. Yeah,
So
your conversation.
I'm the one that's silly.
Your conversation is a breath of fresh air, right? Because otherwise it was beginning to feel a bit silly.
I just want us to be a little bit civil.
Oh, I am. I'm not talking
just
about
adjust
an
the
individual.
issues.
I'm
Go
talking
ahead.
about
Go ahead.
statements,
Go ahead.
not individuals,
Go ahead.
by the way. Yeah. When you set the context, Fatoma, talking about 18 elections being held so far, yeah, and you said 12 went peacefully, right, and there was no cause to complain. I made a remark and said, break that down into percentages for us, yeah? Because all too often, what the opposition wants us to believe is that what happened, the issues they're claiming occurred in 110, permeates right through every single election we've had. Go back to their statement, it will feel as if there's going to be fire in Sierra Leone tomorrow. That's the impression they want to give this, the people of this country, but then also our international partners. And that's not right at all. It is totally incorrect. Now you hear from a civil society angle as to what those issues were, particularly in Koinadugu. I mean, unfortunately, Femi wouldn't know that. She hardly travels beyond where they call. So look, those issues, if you want to bring issues in between and say, okay, I have an issue with this, how can we deal with it and make sure it doesn't happen again? But if you look at the success rate of NEC as an institution over 18 elections, they've had 12 successful elections, save for 1 or 2.
And six not successful. That's huge.
In the instance of Connaught, very recently, there was a statement, a press release by New, and then we saw political parties who signed up to what they felt was satisfactory, right, in terms of the outcome of the elections. Something Fatom has alluded to also. It is all over WhatsApp. I mean, I have a copy of it. I mean, it begs the point again. I mean, who did New talk to at that material point in time to issue a statement suggesting that political parties did not agree and that there was low trust and confidence, right, when it came to whatever was happening in Congo? Who did they really speak to?
Based on the observations they've always observed.
And it comes back, comes back to a more fundamental point Fatoma made earlier, which is who's informing who? And that's the point, that's the broader point for me, particularly so with regards to the EU report. Now, I just want to cite a particular, I think it's the third or the fourth paragraph. The press release, issued out on the 29th of November 2021. It says the mission has been told. Comes back to my point, fundamentally. You have been told. I would feel it should be a bit more weighty and meaty than you have been told.
Is that not a bit clear? Because, for example, Abdul mentioned that, he was part of two consultative meetings held.
Granted.
I mean, as people, the public look up to us, credible CSOs, including the Center for Accountability and the Rule of Law, IGR, CGG Campaign for Good Governance.
Agreed.
These are all organizations that involves in governance issues in this country.
You also, Fatoma, said that they hired probably lawyers who they spoke to and they relied on them.
For legal opinions.
Probably. It is from that angle that something, from what you were saying, you can correct me the point is,
I'm not going to correct you, but I was not speculating.
No, you're not speculating. The point is, right, there are secondary, right, and third-hand information that came through quite clearly from your analysis, right? So the point for me is this. Let us benefit, all of us, right, including government, and that is what we're looking forward to. We hold the European Union in very high esteem. We have followed through on a lot of the recommendations they've made since 2007, right? Setting up of the National Peace and Cohesion Commission, gender and women's rights. Part 5 criminal libel laws. Just last week, His Excellency the President made, right, for the commitment to freedom of the press and all the rest of it. We want to continue to engage. We want to continue to do the best we can. But when Femi throws up something like Kamarimba and the fact that he has been detained, it is just offensive. Offensive.
Yes, go ahead.
And this is the reason why.
Go ahead.
I have a daughter who turned 8 on the 13th of November, right? Somebody we're talking about, and somehow you're talking about maybe.
And this person is not being proven guilty.
But that's not even the point for me. The point
guilt
for me
is not the point.
The point for me is the point. It has not yet concluded, so it cannot be the point by any means whatsoever.
Right.
It has not been concluded yet. So get that and tell that to the public also that this has not been concluded, not by the judiciary. So there is no point in raising why someone who's been allegedly, right, accused of rape,
Alleged.
right, allegedly accused of rape with very serious evidence before the court for which he's been tried, granted bail, right, and we know that in time that people have gone there standing bail, right, with not the right documents and somehow been able to secure bail. So the judiciary has been very meticulous. I hope you understand. I see nothing wrong with the processes, right? The same, I know so many other cases. You're obsessed about Kamarimba for party political reasons and to gain political mileage. And I find it very unfortunate as someone who has a daughter who lives in this country, right? Not on any side. And I rely on the laws in this country to protect my daughter. Staffulai, should something happen at some point in the future. So don't come play politics. Yeah, with alleged rape.
So they are now saying you are the ones playing politics. Using no, they are saying now. I'm coming just quickly as you respond to that. They are saying now you are using politics to keep Kamarimba behind bars.
And the seriousness of but that's very that's very unfortunate, right? And the seriousness we attach, right, to issues of rape in this country. Look, I know so many other instances of people allegedly, right, accused of rape and sexual violence against minor, right, who have not been granted bail, right, who have to go to court, and they have their reasons why. The judiciary have been very meticulous when it comes to those issues, and we have to respect that. So Kamarimba is not alone, and let no one come and take Kamarimba aside from the several other rape cases that are in the courts, that are being addressed and looked into, right, and those people are in detention. What makes it any different? Was Kamarimba ever arrested? Look, Freetown is too small, Samuel, yeah? And I hate to say this, but I have to say it in public.
Go ahead.
I have spoken to so many people who have personal relationships with that individual who said things to me that are not dissimilar for the allegations he's facing right now.
So already in your thought he's guilty.
Then you need to give evidence in court.
And people close to him.
You need to give evidence in court.
The point I'm making is this. The point I'm making is this. Look, let us respect the law. Don't play politics. If you want to play politics, find other areas. You have enough that you're trying to peddle to gain political mileage out of. Continue with those. Good luck. And we'll see. The people of this country are smart enough come 2023. That's an assurance I'm going to give you. They're smart enough. They understand exactly what this president is about, his sincerity and dedication and commitment. This is the most progressive government we have seen in terms of passing laws. It has been acknowledged. The reason why we continue to pass scorecard after scorecard of MCC, right, and all the standards they have set. And it is not because they're international standards, by the way. Those are our own standards as well. As a government, that is what we aspire to. And that is why we continue to get those ratings every year. That cannot be disputed.
For almost, let me ask you this question. For almost 15 months, Mohamed Kamarimba has been behind bars, standing trial on, for sexual offenses. And he has been granted bail because of his medical condition. And the bill has not been approved because there are, controversies here and there about processes and documentation and presentation of documents for him for the bill to be approved. And you are now saying these opposition political parties should not play politics with that because that should be a national interest for every Sierra Leonean. And these political parties are now saying you are deliberately keeping Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari behind bars because he is politically vocal and opposed to the wrongs you continue to do in Sierra Leone. So that is why you want to keep him quiet.
Look,
I'll give you time. Shortly. Let him continue. Go ahead.
First of all, yes. You will at some point, definitely, Fatoma. First of all, look, Kamarimba, if you go back to the elections in 2018, like Femi Claudius Cole, I don't know between the two who got more votes than the other. Yeah, I'm being very respectful. Yeah, so.
No, me, no problem. I'm used to it.
So nobody, right? Not any serious government would want to feel threatened, right? To the point that you have to now incarcerate someone. Yeah.
Really?
We know how this matter came up, right? That got Kamarimba, right, in confrontation with the law, and for which, right, he's in the courts, and I mean the court is yet to give a verdict on that matter. We know it is an alleged rape, and it is alleged rape against a minor. As a matter of fact, minor. This is not Pikiwede under 18, for the one that will probably not understand English, like the Yehidis wire. And that is what Femi Claudius Cole is attempting to defend now, right? Claiming political coverage that because she represents COP, and somehow, maybe, at no point would she ever have to rely on those laws, right? For anybody, right? We're probably not a sibling to Ram under the laws there, because she does not find herself in that position. For those of us who have daughters in this country, 8, and have to rely on these very laws, and I have several nieces, right, and family relatives who would have to rely on these same laws, I take it very seriously. And this has nothing to do with government, but I take exception to it personally. And secondly,
yes, good.
Secondly, you can gain and bring up other issues. This government is willing to engage, yeah? Is willing to talk. Constitutional review, that's a commitment that His Excellency the President has made, yeah? And we will definitely make sure that we have this discussion.
You leave the door.
we do it and have those discussions. But we are also saying, yeah, that some of the positions you're making, we're getting close to elections, yeah? I spoke to somebody who was a very senior figure in the APC, and this is a story, yeah? I went to his house and somehow we were talking. Never met him from Adam, that was the very first time. And he said to me, oh, Imran, I said, by the way, I think I see you all the time on TV and radio, I follow you. But you know my position, what I had before under the previous administration. I'm going to say something to you, I hope you take it in mind and keep it very seriously. And so I was like, okay, yeah, let me see what's coming. And he said to me, you know, for those of us who are in opposition, there's nothing and there'll be nothing good about you in government. Keep that in mind. Keep your focus.
So they're just opposing for opposition's sake.
The Americans call it, right? It's called political silliness. That is what we're seeing as we're getting close to elections. These issues would come, right? But let us come down and have those real fundamental discussions about the development of
this is critical, Femi. As the name implies, opposition. So you're just opposing. And nothing will be good in your eyes based on the story.
You know, let's take Imran part by part. First of all, when somebody tells you this is not an insult and proceeds to insult you, Imran, that is the way you operate. When the questions get tough and the answers that we, the opposition, are giving get tougher, the SLPP media people go into the insult mode. For me now, my skin is so thick, you can lay it on. But let me be clear.
I haven't.
I probably travel as much around the country as you do. You wouldn't know because you're not part of me. But that's fine. So you can make any flippant, silly assumption as you wish. You have my full permission to go right ahead. But if he doesn't know, let me educate him. That's why it's important to do a little bit of research before you sit on anybody's couch. I am the unofficial ambassador for the Rainbow Initiative.
Good for you.
My sister has been the chairman of Rainbow since 2004 or 2008, something like that. My sister is the one that goes to court to defend, to prosecute cases of rape. At my dinner table, I hear the gruesome stories. We just lost a 4-year-old. I am speaking.
No, we all do.
We just had a gruesome, a 4-year-old just died last week
family members
after she was raped.
Unfortunately.
And what we're talking about is not
you have
the crime
of being at a dinner table to
Nobody is saying
I don't.
that the crime is not offensive.
No, well, it isn't.
I have grandkids.
By your
a daughter.
By your lenses. It isn't.
And I hear the...
Go ahead, please.
It isn't.
And I hear the cases all the time. They are upsetting, they are sad. We have sometimes patients who have been raped admitted at our hospital where he was born.
So we are getting political capital out of it.
So
why try to get political capital out of it?
So what we're talking about here is the key. that's the bedrock of justice. A man is innocent until proven guilty. Yesterday, we saw 3 white men found guilty for shooting a black guy in the States. Up until that point, when that verdict was read, they were innocent. And what he is saying is trying to play on, I will never condone the crime of assault.
That's what you're doing.
I would never condone the crime of penetration, rape, or sexual violence.
But that's what you're doing, unfortunately.
Let's get that clear.
That's what you're doing.
Normally, the SLPP has to try now to see who they're going to be sending on these programs, because I thought Imran was superior to, what's the other fellow's name, who will come and be shouting and be ranting. The fact of the matter is, I will not condone, we're not talking about the crime. It is a human rights violation, the denial of bail. So it is good, probably. I am not going to try to insult you, Iman, because I know you. We are not enemies. Politics doesn't make for enemies. But it is good sometimes to do a little bit of background study and reading. When a judge sits on the bench, he has a commitment. Today, it can be Mohamed Kamarimba. Tomorrow it can be your son who's accused.
So Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari has been kept behind bars.
Yes.
The judiciary has granted him bail. But the judiciary is now saying Kamarimba has not fulfilled his bail conditions. Until he does, it would not be approved.
We have the communication guy right here. Tell us which aspect of his bail condition has he not met.
So the judiciary is saying Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, signing, I think on 2 affidavits. One, he said he only has 1 passport, which he has submitted. The other is, because he has not been traveling. The other, he said, in the other affidavit, then he accepted that he had another, but it was burnt in the fire incident in Makeni.
Yes.
And according to the judiciary, both affidavits are with the judiciary. He did not, his lawyers did not, withdrawn the order. So he has 2 different statements. And for them, there is a doubt there already leaving him until he proves otherwise.
Is it a doubt that they cannot prove? Who applies? Who? In order for you to have a passport. Now, he might call it silliness or even stupidity. Forgive me my stupidity and my silliness. But in order for me to have a passport, Samuel, is it possible for me to have 2 valid passports? Is this rocket science? Somebody please educate me. I believe when you apply for a passport, it immediately nullifies the prior passport. Now, if he claims that his passport was burnt, is it for the family and his lawyers to go to the police, which they did, travel to Makeni to verify that his house was burnt and his passport was in there? What I am saying is the insistence on does he have or does he not have a passport is not a substantive argument.
To keep him behind bars.
To keep him behind bars, because Samuel, if your passport expires, when you go to renew it, you take a picture of the old passport. And automatically, we now have a sophisticated passport system. Automatically, your old passport is nullified. And the only valid document, can you travel with an old passport that has expired? How long do passports take to expire? They take 5 years to expire. So all that they have to do is call somebody up in immigration, go through the documents. When was Kamarimba's old passport issued? It was issued in as an example, it was issued in 2005. Logic. I don't need to have a PhD in law to tell me that in 2010, his passport has expired.
All right. Let me bring in Abdul. Abdul, the issue of Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari, the opposition political parties are saying there's politics at play here. The ruling government is influencing the judiciary to continue to keep Mohamed Kamarimba Mansari because of his political boldness, because of how vocal he is as an opposition politician. And so they will not wonder, especially when we're approaching 2023. But here the government is saying the judiciary is handling this matter, and the judiciary has come out many times saying, we have no reason to continue to keep Mohammed Kamarimba Mansari because the crime he committed is a bailable offense, and we've granted him bail. But it's up to him now and his people to meet the conditions given by the judiciary.
Yeah, the issue generally is a human rights issue. His right, you know, as an accused person, you know, he still has right to enjoy all his fundamental human rights. But the law also, you know, permit them, you know, human rights recognize that when accused persons, you know, have been accused, they should be taken to a place that conducive, you know, for them, whereas they are in detention. Right. So human rights institutions like us, we are concerned, whilst we also observe and monitor the due processes. And now, we have been monitoring this matter, and we have been engaging government authorities, you know, on this status. And now the judiciary often say to the public that they have granted him bail, but there are processes and procedures that needs to be fulfilled. And examples are bound. The co-accused person, I mean, she worked out, I think, yesterday. And then if you read the press release from the judiciary, there are serious allegations that 12 attempts with fake or illegal identifications, you know, for people who want to serve as a shorties, you know, for Mohammed Kamarimba. And those procedures for serve as a shorties, it's not new, it's not unique to one person's. When I was arrested in 2017, people from the public who knew me personally upped up. I was having more than 7 people who brought their, you know, property document to the CID. And there was one who said I should be superior on this one, which was David Tambayo. And he gave 2 of his property. He said, if they want, they can take it. But he believed in the things that I do. And so with that, and there were several other people. Mohammed, there was this other journalist as well, Sise, who is commissioner now for the... Unisa Sise. No, Mustafa Sise. Mustafa Sise, okay. He was among the other people. So if people genuinely want to serve justice to Mohammed Kamarimba, and if the judiciary is saying that they have not been having reliable people to serve as a shorty, can citizens who are legitimate citizens in this country, who fulfill those bail criteria, can they please approach Mohammed Kamarimba and his lawyers and goes to the judiciary and tender those things? And when it fails, then we can now put a blame and obligations on the judiciary that this is deliberate, this is on the shorties. Then the issue here is I listen keenly to Madam Cole. I've been in civil society since 2000, and I left, go back to build my capacity in the UK, you know, and I returned back. So I started it when I was a very young teenager. So I've seen in this country one person having 6 passports with different names before the biometric. One person having Sierra Leonean passports, 6 different passports. One face, 6 different names, 6 different date of birth in this country, not other country, right? So don't say that is not unique. It's very
given by one institution.
Given by one institution. So this is the
and it is coming from someone who does not hold a PhD.
That speaks to the corruption in that sector.
This comes as an issue of a breakdown of our institutions, that due processes, systems are not in place. But we have the structures and said, this is the immigration. But the immigration puts us at risk, that one citizens. So what the public is yet duly to be informed about this identity issue with Mohamed Kamayemba is that of is Sierra Leone seeking a passport owned by Mohamed Kamayemba, which is a duly Sierra Leonean passport, or is the court seeking for a foreign passport? You know, we all do understand that sometimes he stays in the United States, he works there, he's schooled there. Does the Sierra Leone government have any knowledge that he has a United States passport and that is what they want him to tender and he's refusing to tender that? The reason why I'm saying this, I was caught at the middle of this mess at the CID. I came in, when I was arrested, they said I should tender a British passport. I said to them, I was born in Medina Boom Chiefdom in Bondi Street, and I grew up here, so I'm entitled to Sierra Leonean passport as a Sierra Leonean, and what I can give to them is my Sierra Leonean passport. And I gave them expired passport because my passport was expired. I was also here to renew my passport. I said, if you give me this one now to secure the new one, I can bring the new one and give it to you. But this is what I have. They said, no, you should tender another passport. If you gave me that passport, then I will give it to you. But the one that was given to me by the government of Sierra Leone, that's what I'm entitled to share with you, right? So there we end my own story. So where is this conflict in the identity? This is what we should look at. And either it was done by mistake, either I don't know, for filing two affidavits with two informations. The moment you are inconsistent in front of the court, the judge will not listen to any one of that story because you ask him to determine which one is the fact, which one is the false. And the court look onto two things. The judges are bound by two things when they are up there, the law and the fact. The fact is the evidence you bring before them. It is true that Imran slapped the cameraman at AYV, but the fact is not there to show to the court that Imran indeed slapped. So the fact, the truth to support that fact to be established is either video version, Imran slapping.
Or a witness.
You know, so, or witness. Yes. And so that we establish. So, but what has been happening in this country, we commit, sorry, can I just conclude a second? Then I'll give away to you. For far too long, we have been enjoying, and the court has not been saying much on these issues. The general public has been engaging in contempt of court.
How?
Matters before the court. We jump into conclusions, on speculations, things, without having the fact or nearly following things. People will come to you, oh, you know, civil society, what do they do? You know, we not hearing you pull statement on this. The reason why our organization, we pulled out a statement, I will stick my neck and ready to die for that statement. Any given time. We thoroughly investigate that matter, and I have
the facts.
The fact. I challenge Parliament on that.
Right.
And I took the facts to them, and they run away from the fact. They say, you are our brother, forget it. The treason against my life was buried in their own office.
Right.
You know, I've done that with ACC. I've done that with state institutions, with Israeli police. Now we are on the military. You know, we're coming out soon. We have abundant of fact. The youth ministry, we have abundant of fact. We don't only speculate. We don't only have this business. When Fatima said you embezzle XYZ amount of money, I will not only present to you documentary fact of that, I will also, you know, prevent other persuasive and compelling evidences. But when we get things right in this country, holding people accountable for careless talk, reckless talk, like what happened in Parliament about bribery and corruption. But the Bank of Salon is notorious in bribery. They bribe police for the 5 million euros to investigate a matter at the police. So saying that now they're bribing the rich people to, you know, to give us dollars I mean, we should.
That's,
You know,
go ahead, Femi.
No, my question was,
Are you asking me a question?
no, what
I take question from Samuel. I don't
something
take
you
question
said.
from
You said
colleague
that
panelists.
if the judge grants the bail, my assumption is he has done his due diligence. And the
No.
okay, well,
I mean,
now I will land. No, I'm going to land.
Yes,
so therefore, my question is,
Due diligence.
once the judge has granted the bail, it now goes through the
registrar's office.
The registrar's office.
Yeah, she
And
do the due diligence. He or she do the due diligence.
Allow me.
Yeah.
I've been
Go ahead.
patient with you.
No, you say you want to
So-
learn. I just
so
want to help you to learn. Sorry.
Don't help me to crash.
All right, sorry.
Don't help me to laugh.
Okay, sorry.
So what I'm saying is, so the judge grants the bail. There is an office that does the screening. And the article that you were quoting that's out yesterday after this
A
lady
press
was
release.
released, the press release that they put out.
All right.
They then gave instances of cases where false documents had been presented. From my reading of that press statement, it didn't read that he had produced fake documents. That clarification will need to be made as we move forward.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. So it wasn't clear in that statement.
I'm about to say on this particular issue.
Quickly.
Fatoma has raised things I did not want to say as to what some of the issues are, right? That probably we need to consider, right, on the issue of bail.
Right.
Quite clearly, I mean, a judge can grant a bail. It is not the judge's responsibility or magistrate's responsibility to make sure that you fulfill those bail conditions. That is why you have another office. And that office has a responsibility to do due diligence. We know that in the past, right, people have applied for bail, granted bail, jumped bail, particularly on cases of rape, right, and sexual violence against minors. It is on record. If you go to the judiciary, you'll find those records there, and they have never come back. Those who, signed bail have not been seen, cannot be traced, nothing whatsoever. So the long and short of it is, but then, this is much serious in terms of the conversation, right? Free from politics and all the rest of it coming from Fatoma, and it also points. It also points to the fact that,
He's so childish.
right? It also points to the fact that for those who have dinner tables, there's a lot more conversations that they need to have at those dinner tables. Yeah, not just those narrow interpretation of things and events because you somehow are involved at a particular level. No, right? This is a very serious matter. Let us free it from politics. I mean, that's the point fundamentally I'd like to make.
Okay.
Free it from politics. I mean, if there are concerns with regards to the development process of this country or anything else whatsoever, and you feel the need to want to contribute, let us be constructive, not to seek political mileage.
There's another issue raised in your letter that has to do, I think, with the Auditor General.
Yes.
What's your take on it?
I think that there's very, very bad optics in the timing. But it's not just the bad optics, it's the mudslinging.
Right.
And it's a culture within the SLPP. We see Imran doing that now. When the arguments gets a little bit tense, you sink to a level of personal attacks. And we see that being done to a woman of high repute, where the Constitution, again, lays out a particular procedure. Now, everybody in Sierra Leone now we all get it, that there was a way and manner that it was to be done. As Fatoma says, the president does have the power to hire and fire. That's his right.
Which is constitutional
But there's also a filter.
Which is?
The proper process. And for as long as the SLPP government bypasses that process, the opposition will speak, and we will speak loudly. And in terms of that, we also look at another issue which we wrote in our letter, I'm sure, is the consultation versus information, where we have SLPP members of parliament standing in the well of parliament, arguing what is consultation. Now, if somebody was to say something was silly or even stupid, to go that far, to me that would be it. What is consultation? You mean we're going to stand in the well of Parliament and you are going to question that you sent me a letter telling it has pleased His Excellency to appoint, and you're claiming in the well that that was a consultation move? If he talks about things being offensive, I don't know what gets more offensive than that.
But again, I think that goes back to the Constitution. The Constitution,
exactly.
It's so, I mean, it's so ambiguous that it did not specify what's the mode of consultation, how consultation should take place. So literally, I know
consultation is back and forth.
Literally, we know what consultation is all about.
Yeah.
But here we're talking about, somebody was telling me the other day, I could just pick up a phone and tell you that I'm going to appoint Imran. That's consultation.
No. No, it cannot be.
Right.
Consultation can be done in all the different modes. He could have called a Zoom conference. He could have sent a letter. I'm appointing so-so person. The Constitution says you consult all political parties. And you know where I think they are so caught up in the power of the moment that what the Constitution says is consult. And it's not saying when you consult, you have to do what we say. You can consult us, we can talk from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. And the president can still go ahead and employ whoever he wants to employ. That's his powers given to him. What we're saying is consultation, whether you send me a letter, the Secretary of Unity Party, the president is considering appointing so-so person to this position. That wording is different to you are hereby informed it has pleased His Excellency to appoint. And so there goes the Constitution being ripped apart, being cut and pasted to suit their whims and caprices. And that cannot continue. It simply cannot continue. Whether Ms. Claudia Skoll got 1 vote, whether I got 2 votes, whether I didn't vote for my own self, is immaterial. That is not the argument. The argument are things in the country are slip sliding. When you have children, little children, telling you, rest no day, lights no day, it is time for you to go back to the drawing board. Not to be throwing insults around. No. And when we come to forums like yours, the public is depending on hearing substance. And even if from Ms. Claudia Skoll they hear nonsense, from Imran they should hear substance.
Right.
Not cheap insults as to how many votes Kamarimba and I put together. If he's guilty, he's sentenced.
You talked about political threat.
If he's guilty of the crime he's found guilty, he's sentenced. End of story. So it's not that we're condoning the crime, that he seems to want to play on the emotion of it. That's wrong.
All right. Let's try to wrap up the conversation. Okay. So, Imran, before bringing Abdul, these issues, the issue of consultation, which many political parties and even some civil society groups and individuals said that did not take place because what took place was informing political parties that I have made a decision. I have appointed this woman to serve as the Western Area Region Chairperson for the National Electoral Commission, and the issue of the Auditor General, the timing and even the processes have been questioned by legal minds.
I have, on the issue of Taylor Pierce, I have listened to several lawyers,
right?
Yeah, both for and against. And the most remarkable one, and that's the point I'm going to make, and then move on to your next point, is the one by lawyer Francis Gabidon on 98.1.
Right.
Was it on 98.1 or
here? He was here.
Yes.
He was here with me.
You remember his statement? You were reading basically statements from other people and what their views were on the sacking of Taylor Pierce, and then it came to a particular name.
So it's a sacking, huh?
Suspension, rather. it came to a particular reference, and he said, "Well, I'm not going to comment on that." And that was just a sweet jab. Fools rushing where angels fear to tread. The point for me is this. Beautiful expression.
Right.
The point for me is this. The Constitution make provision and give powers to His Excellency the President. Yeah? She has been suspended. She put out a statement herself saying I have been informed of my suspension, and I'm willing and ready to cooperate 100% with a tribunal that is going to be set up, right? Didn't she say so? That's public knowledge. Why do we have to come and start doing litigation on a matter in which she herself has said, I'm waiting for the tribunal, I'm ready to cooperate? Full stop. That is where it ends for me, right? Because I think...
So you do not countenance the procedure or how things should pan out before the suspension. The Judicial and Legal Service Commission has to initiate a complaint.
The views vary.
Yeah, obviously.
As to whether, right, that is what I meant earlier by saying, I have had lawyers saying on both sides of the argument that they feel it is right, or no, we feel it is not right.
Right.
Whatever the issues are, the fundamental problem that they seem to have is whether she should have been suspended before setting up the tribunal, or he set up the tribunal before suspending her, right? They do not question, in all of those narratives that I've had, they do not question whether the president doesn't have this power. They understand that the president can suspend, but they're saying, okay, well, no, there should be the tribunal, and then the suspension, or the suspension should come before the tribunal.
And it doesn't matter.
In either way, I'm talking about different arguments of that. Either way, we know there's a tribunal now. We know that she has been suspended. We also know she has acknowledged, that yes, she has been suspended, and she's willing and ready to cooperate 100%, with the tribunal when it starts work. I think that is sufficient at this material point in time. What I am not going to do is to prejudice, right? Whatever is going to happen before a competent court or whatever it is, right? And let the process flow, right? There's somebody now who's acting, and I hear the comments being made, right, since the suspension, that it is just as about the time that the audit report is meant to be published.
Yes.
And I say to myself, but wait a minute, Fatoma. There is a team at the Audit Service Commission. The legwork, the groundwork is being done, right, by staff for a period of 12 months. 12 months. They have been interfacing with ministry departments and agencies, writing back and forth and all the rest of it. That work was ongoing since last year, since they laid the last report in the well of Parliament. They started work again for this year. And they've been able to put those things together. What they do, shortly before a report is being tabled before the well of Parliament, they go for a retreat. It was around that time that the suspension came in, right? They had gone for a retreat. The retreat is basically, right, just to put the documents together. What should contain in the report? How should it be? That is what they go for retreats for. Full stop, right? And so, I think it doesn't affect the work that has been done over a period of 12 months. It doesn't affect the work, right, by members of staff who had the responsibility to interface with ministries, departments, and agencies throughout this period, bringing out those facts and figures and data and statistics to make sure they get to this stage. And there's someone now who's acting, right, to be able to produce a report. 99.98% of the staff at the Audit Service Commission is still there, save for 2. That's why I say 99.98.
Okay.
Hello.
So in essence, what are you saying? So in essence, you're saying
the point I'm making is
it's not a way of tampering with the work they've done.
The point I'm making is the audit service has never been about one individual, one or two individuals. It has never been. It has been a team's effort, working hard year on year to make sure that they're able to produce a report. Yes, someone seemingly gets the accolade for those reports being produced, right? But then give credit to those who do the legwork throughout, the 12 months to be able to bring out those reports. Otherwise, in their absence, there wouldn't be any audit reports every single year. And we should give credit to them and acknowledge them and understand that they are the rock upon which the audit service rests. And they would continue to do their utmost.
All right. Quickly on the consultation of Zainab.
Consultations and information. In a 21st century world that we live in, what does consultation really mean?
It means nothing to you.
We need to get up to speed. This is the 21st century world. in 1998.
Yeah.
I know consultation used to be, well, not 1998. In 1990, there were no probably mobile phones. You had those land phones back then. Or you had to physically send a letter. Send
No, we
someone
were
to go and
using a
give
shell.
letter,
We were yelling in a shell.
Consultation back then meant something different as to how it could be done, right?
He's such
Now
a
you
wally.
can do consultations at the click of a phone. And we also know, based on records, the other political parties, say for COP, if you go by the PPRC register, how many political parties do we have? Registered
17.
You know, he should know.
17.
He's the strategic communication.
I don't work for PPRC.
Go ahead.
That's why you should
My
come
business is
armed
not
with
political parties.
information instead of
Go ahead.
My business is
silliness.
my business is not political parties. 17 or 18, I was about to say 18 by the way. Thanks for the correction. 17 political parties. Of those 17 political parties, a number of them did say, well, we were consulted. So it comes down to...
How many of them said they were consulted?
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter.
What does the Constitution
You
say?
at COP have your own position.
What does the
I'm coming.
Constitution say?
Let me finish. You at COP have your own understanding and interpretation, clearly for party political reasons. Good for you. I wish you well.
What does the Constitution say, though?
Other political parties have disagreed and have said,
What does the
we were
Constitution
consulted,
say,
and
honey?
they did put out the statement saying, we were consulted and we're quite comfortable with the process that ended up in the appointment of Zainab Bangura, and she has been appointed into that position. She's gone through...
Bangura
Zainab Bosiri.
She has gone through Parliament now, approved, taken an oath of office and all the rest of it. Hey,
Put it in your pipe and smoke it.
she has a job to do. She has a job to do, right? I know her to be professional, hardworking, and diligent, right? During our time in opposition.
And you don't know her
right?
name?
And I had quite a few interactions with her,
Seriously?
right? Including the late Tola Thompson of blessed memory. Never at any given point did I imagine she belonged to a political party. Never at any given point.
All right.
And so it comes as a surprise now that somehow they are characterizing her as being X, Y, and Z from COP. But look, at the end of the day, Zainab will do her job to the best of her abilities, an oath she has taken, right? And the public will get to decide as
And
to
the
whether
Constitution says
she's capable
consult
enough
all, A-L-L,
for
all
this
political
particular
parties,
All right.
not some.
Let's have the final bite from Abdul with regards to the audit, the Auditor General suspension and the issue of consultation around the appointment of Zainab.
All right. It's good that this is the end for me, and it's also good that it also relates directly from my entry point.
Right.
That the constitution of this country is our fundamental problem, why we are stagnant with growth, but in socio-economic development and also political, even though this constitution, the 1991 constitutions, gives enormous right to citizens to enjoy their political right, but not their socio-economic right. However, both of these two fundamental rights have been held to hostage because of this very bad, this not good constitution for democracy. It's not actually good. No one needs to convince you. It is not good for the word democracy and good governance. It is not good in the market. So we need to change it immediately. And this is where I want political parties really to rally citizens to urge government. I will be part of that demonstration. I will even lead the process. I'm ready to, to go to prison for that. I'm ready to die for that. Today, tomorrow, I'm willing for that. Any demonstration to urge government to change the 1991 constitution. Consultation, she's a professional as a nurse. Their son consultation is done over phone, right? And this is very serious matter, political issues.
Right.
So if we have the constitution saying that, can we have a political party act, that talks about elections, that shows how appointments of national electoral commissioners and also the PPRC chair and commissioners, what engagement needs to be done before. So, but if you said consultation, and I pick up a phone and say, Samuel, I'll be visiting AYV tomorrow. It's either you say yes or no. What is good for me is what I'm going to do.
Right.
But the fundamental point there, I have duly informed you, you know, which can serve as a form of consultation, you know, that I have told you that I'm coming to AYV. It's better you dodge me or you welcome me. But the fundamental point there, I've communicated
As a form
with
of
you,
engagement.
you know, but if I should inform you before coming to AYV that I just jumped into my car and drove to AYV, then meaning I didn't inform you or consult you, you know, in coming. So if the nomenclatures are different, I didn't study the English language, you know, as a particular thing. I study, you know, employment law and international commercial law and other, you know, corporate legal things. So English language, I never took literature specifically to know the grammar. I'm a Shabro, and I would have been love and proud speaking it, writing it. You know, people translate it. So that's what I understand most, you know. So these are serious things, but political party likes jumping on issues. Even the very SLPP is guilty of that. When they were in oppositions, they were criticizing most of these things that APC was doing. Democratically, it's wrong. Constitutionally, it's right.
Wrong.
No, it's right. Because if it is in the Constitution,
that you consult
and just
all
give a flat,
parties.
just give a flat, generic, not specific. No, to consult all political parties.
It's what the Constitution says.
Yes, I mean, that's what they should follow.
Yes.
That's what they should follow. But then, like, I don't know the defense if either they called your political party.
No, they did not.
They sent letter to the political party.
They did not.
But what also they mistaking government after government administration using a loose quango group. A loose mean not legally binding. No disrespect. Not legally binding. Like COP, for example, like APA, APWA, or YAPA, whatever how they call APIA, whatever they call them. These are not legally binding consulting groups. These are loose groups. We decided to come together and form a platform where we can exchange. So you cannot use that platform to fulfill constitutional mandate. You can, if you fail to meet the threshold, ensure that you commit yourself to the word all, even by a phone call or by a letter. What is wrong? Like I was saying, the act in this country gives, I mean, they are more progressive. You look now to the Audit Service Act, they protect the position of the auditor. The ACC also has similar position. The Bank of Salon Act also have similar position, protecting the bank governors, right? But then the Constitution, the parent of these laws that we follow, he says you have the power to hire and fire. So ignoring all that your nonsense security in that small little corner, which you call your act to govern you, which fool people, mislead people. My position is protected. Even president cannot tamper it. But that's a no. There is a constitution who says, a section who says, this man have a right to hire, fire, establish, and create.
All right.
Yeah. So then to coming to my good friend, Madam Pierce, it comes us back to the Constitution. Yeah, this is a constitution that gave power to the single man or single woman who will be the president of this country or who is serving as a president. A judge sitting, and he said, I have problem with that judge, his or her conduct, so I'm going to suspend him and set up not set up a tribunal before and you know, suspend and set up a tribunal, right? To look into it and bring those reports to me. Then I take those reports to Parliament. who set up the tribunal? It's the government of Australia.
Right.
And whose office? The executive office. And where? This same position I'm talking about.
President.
The AG's office.
Yeah.
You know, the AG's office set up this thing, yeah? And then these people put the report back to them, and that report, they take it back. The president, the executive takes that back to the legislative. So the process is done one side. I suspend you. I set up a committee to look into your allegation, whatever, whether it was Lara or our judges or even the Chief Justice or others. You know, this is the procedure. I mean, this is the constitution that we have governing us. These are some of the bad things that I'm saying.
Yes.
It's not good for us.
Yes.
You know, and these are some of the things we should be talking about.
Okay.
You know, to change. So, I mean, coming to that point, now people should have started digging up who constituted the panel. Now we have somebody who is a consultant under the AG's office.
Somebody who's in the same law firm.
Somebody who has worked with the AG at the same law firm and still maintained there, and the law firm owns by the AG, right? And this comes in the conflict of interest. So if political parties are serious about due process and procedures, they should have petitioned these two individuals that they are not credible enough under conflict of interest, not on their qualifications or their experience.
Conflict of
Under
interest.
conflict of
All
interest. So with that, I think
thank you.
time is running out.
Yes.
I'm quite sure in 30 seconds.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
I'm quite sure all of those due diligence, right, were done by the Attorney General's office. And those individuals are very credible individuals. They meet the threshold to be appointed.
I'm not asking
right?
that. My position has not been their credibility on qualification on experience.
Due diligence has been done.
My issue is conflict of interest.
That's an
Thank
assurance
you.
I'm going to give.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay,
And
sir,
this is
thank
where
you.
we end tonight's program. We say many thanks to our guests, Abdul Fatoma from Chadi, Femi Claudius Cole from COP and the Unity Party, Imran Silla from the Strategic Communications Unit, Ministry of Information and Communication. And to all of you who've sent in your messages on Facebook, thank you very much. A repeat of the show comes up on Thursday at 10 p.m. But your fresh edition comes up next week, same time, same station, on your home of all things credible, factual, and all times balanced news. My name is Samuel Weisbango.